Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast with host Sana, where we dig deep into personal transformation, mental wellness, and spiritual growth. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Jeremy Van Wert, a true maverick in the world of coaching and self development. Jeremy's life, listeners, is like an adventure novel. He cycled across the US, once got an invite to join the Blue Man Group, and even left a government job without a triumphant take this job and shove it. But he's also a sage, a therapist, and a founder of Mindful Mutiny. That's a beautiful name, helping people push past mental roadblocks and embrace their fullest potential. So, join us as we dive deep into the practical strategies for overcoming ADHD, anxiety, and those pesky self limiting beliefs. Jeremy's blend of humor, insight, and unconventional wisdom will leave you feeling inspired and ready to rewrite your own story, your journey. So, listeners, let's get ready and jump right into the conversation. So, Jeremy, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Sana. You know what I want? I want you to follow me around in my life and introduce me before I walk into any room in my life.
Great, Jeremy. So you have lived such a unique life. Trust me, it's a completely different life story of its own. And from cycling across America to being invited to join the Blue Man Group, how do those experiences fuel your approach to coaching and personal growth?
So I've had a lot of varied experiences in my life, and my career growth was going from being a lobby security officer to being the CEO of a nonprofit organization with 200 employees. And this growth in my life has come while I also was dealing with, issues and symptoms of having ADHD and relatively high anxiety. And I learned to cope with those things through kind of like high achievement. And so what my life story has really been is delving into 100 different things at once, just because I have a lot of enthusiasm for different things and a lot of different varied interests. I love classic cars. I ride a motorcycle. I play the drums. I love the coaching venue because I get to take everything that I've really ever done and apply that to helping people balance their lives, the personal part of their lives, the professional, the spirituality, and the physical wellness of people. The varied experiences that I have had, I've learned how to be successful, and that there are specific things that have helped me with my own ADHD brain become really good at a lot of different things. And I love being able to share that and talk about it and help other people strategize how to work with their own mind and to live the most elevated version of themselves.
Definitely. That's empowering. And as you mentioned about ADHD, it's often seen as a challenge to overcome, but you have embraced it. So, how has ADHD shaped your life and career as an entrepreneur? And how can others turn it to a source of strength rather than a weakness?
So many, many years ago, let's just talk about the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There was a problem that the teachers, the educators were noticing about young people. And it was that there were these certain boys, particularly boys, that were overactive. They were hyper. They were saying inappropriate things. They were getting in fights. There was probably couldn't pay attention in class. What was wrong with these boys? And so what the really smart people did at the time was to kind of sit down and figure out what was wrong with these boys. And at the time, there was a little bit of an ignoring that a lot of the girls had some of the same problems. It's just they weren't yelling as much. They were quietly daydreaming. And so what happened was these really smart people came up with a list of symptoms of what these boys would do in class that was obnoxious and distracting. They're fidgety. They talk too much. They're highly social. And so what they did was they pathologized a specific strata of the way that the brain works, and so that they could figure out how to treat it with pharmaceuticals. And so I grew up taking Dexedrine and Ritalin and these different medicines in order to be able to sit still in class, which really creates the question, who was right here? Who was wrong here? This apparatus of the modern educational system, this institutional means of knowledge, it specifically sets up the ADHD brain for failure because it's memorization and regurgitation of information over and over and over. Now, the ADHD brain is neurodivergent. It works in a different way. We're aware of different things. And I like to tell the story about my sister who also has ADHD. And she was in an airplane hangar one time, and she was standing there with 30 other people, who's airplane enthusiasts. And there was a giant airplane being backed into this hangar. And it was a propeller plane with 4 large, high propellers on these wings. Now, the propellers had to be faced in a specific direction in order for the airplane to be backed into this airplane hangar and not hit the top of the garage of the hangar. And so this is happening. Lots of people are talking. She looks up and she sees that one of the propellers is straight up and it's going to hit the top of the airplane hangar. And she screams bloody murder, and everybody just stops. And out of 30 people in this airplane hangar, she was the only one that was scanning what was going on around. And she saved the people who owned that airplane $60,000 in damage to that airplane engine, because it would have ripped the propeller off and it would have been out of commission for a very long period of time. She was the only one that noticed that. The ADHD brain is always scanning. It's why we're called the hunter brain, because we're very situationally aware. We're also specifically good at dynamic thinking, problem solving, multifaceted positions on things, being able to consider several different things at the same time. We're innovators, we're creative, and we have this, incredible situation awareness. We tend to know who's standing around us in a grocery store, and we can survey the landscape really well, which also really sets us up to be incredibly good at entrepreneurship and incredibly bad at working for governments.
Rightly said. That's rightly said. Wow. And so how can entrepreneurs with ADHD leverage these traits, as you talked about, hyperfocus, creativity, risk-taking, maybe multi-tasking or thinking about multiple things at the same time? And what strategies can help them stay balanced and organized while running a business?
So the number one thing is to be grateful for the life that you have, for the body that you have, for the mind that you have, to thank the universe for being born, for having the mind that you have, because you are different than the average person. Starting with that gratefulness that you are a little bit different, and embracing that you are different. That is really the number one thing. The second thing is to embrace specifically the things that you are good at and stop stressing out and tasking yourself with doing the things that you are bad at. As an entrepreneur, we know we can't do everything. Right. And so I happen to have a very high verbal acuity. And so my strength is in creating content, in speaking, and this kind of thing, creating ideas and so forth. I don't do the finances. My wife helps me with the finances. My wife helps me with a lot of the back end of my business because I have a tendency to not be as detail oriented as her brain can be. So the division of labor, number one, is very important, where you are specifically doing the things that you are good at and having people around you that understand what you're good at and what you're challenged by. And so that it's very specifically geared out towards where the talents that you have are and where the talents that you don't have are displaced. The second thing is we have a difficult time with retaining information. And we love checklists. And my thing, I use Microsoft To Do, and I always have it open on my third screen here. Sometimes when I'm speaking with somebody, doing a coaching session or a podcast or something like that, something will pop into my brain that I have to do. It always goes on the list. And I love the little ding that I get when I check that thing off and it goes ding. It's like a little award for me that I really love.
True.
What ADHD people need is a strong sense of organization, a strong sense of comfort in your workplace, that you know where everything is and that you have taken time at the beginning of your day to not only organize, but to prioritize the top 2 things that you have to get done by the close of business today.
Wow. Great. And the clarity it's really commendable. So, anxiety can be paralyzing, but you advocate for a proactive approach, a better preparedness rather than waiting for the universe to fix things. I also believe in the same thing. So, can you share one actionable technique, or maybe more than one, for listeners struggling with anxiety?
So anxiety is definitely something a lot of ADHD people deal with. Now, people with ADHD often have a lot of anxiety. We're also sensitive. Part of this is because ADHD people have lived an entire life full of things that are letdowns. Losing of friends, losing of opportunities, not being able to go on the field trip when you're a child because you didn't get your work done, because you couldn't focus enough. And those kinds of things throughout a lifetime, you tend to have kind of trauma upon trauma upon trauma, and it gets really hard. You start getting really hard on yourself. And so you start having kind of anxiety symptoms that sneak up on you. There's a technique, and it's called spatial referencing. And what you do when you start feeling that sense of feeling overwhelmed, it often means that your consciousness is starting to slip out of this reality. It's starting to go outside of your body. And what you need to do is, it's kind of what us therapist-y types would call dissociation, but the spiritual world would call traveling outside of your body. And so the most important thing is placing your consciousness back inside right now. So connect your thumb with your forefinger and just kind of rub it around. You can do it on both hands and feel the little pad of skin that's right there on the tip of your thumb and your finger, and just breathe deeply. This is something you can do in a boardroom, in your car, and you start to just feel that you are in your body now, that you have a heartbeat. Wiggle your toes and start thinking about how far is my index finger and my thumb from my toes. Gosh, that might be 66 inches. How far are my index fingers from my heart? Gosh, that might be 8 inches. And it forms a triangle between my fingers and my heart. And I'm breathing deeply, and I'm thinking about the concept that I am here now, that I don't need to travel outside of myself and to dissociate and to travel to a different dimension in order to avoid the stress right now. Number one, what I need to do is to place myself back in my body. And recognize that every single problem that I have the intelligence, I have the emotional dexterity to handle what's going on right now. But the first thing that I need to do is to place my consciousness back inside my body and stop escaping the moment.
Wow, that sounds really, really effective. And with your experiences in psychedelics and plant-based medicine, Jeremy, how do you integrate these profound insights into helping others, especially those dealing with trauma?
So the wonderful thing about plant-based medicine, one of the most important things for a person is that there is beyond our sustenance, beyond our personal safety, it is that we have a practice of mindfulness, which generally means a meditative state of placing ourselves in the moment. People who have anxiety, people who have ADHD have a particular difficulty with being able to quiet the mind enough to place yourself in the moment. And meditation had always been a really difficult thing for me because my brain is a speed train full of clowns that are juggling. And so to slow that whole train down and to tell the clowns to be quiet, for me, the very first time that I experienced a mind expanding medicine was the very first time that I felt completely at home. And so that sense of things, whichever medicine tends to be right for the individual, and this is something that should obviously be practiced with a person who is a specialist in these medicines, and that it's a safe setting and these sorts of things, that the medicine can, for the very first time for a lot of people, suspend the clown carnival of the brain just like moving all the time so that the person can have a true sense of transcendence, mysticism, and a sense of their own personal value in a cosmic way, that they can connect their constant, ever moving brain with their heart and the concept of whatever it is that created all of us, that sense of awe and beauty that takes us from just simply our 9-to-5 kind of life and places us in the context of what we were actually born to be as physical beings on a spiritual journey. And so in order to kind of quiet that mind, using the proper use of a psychedelic can really help, because then all of a sudden you go, oh, I do have the ability. I'm creating new neural pathways in my mind that I can call upon in the future to ensure that I am continuing to resonate at the highest frequency that I possibly can. And, integration is important after you have a experience like this so that you can create that mindfulness experience ongoing in your life, quiet your mind, and learn to love the way that you were built, and also have those mindful moments. And so integrating that into what it is that I do, I help people have a safe experience and to integrate that higher position of themselves into their everyday life so that they are elevating their whole journey in this life.
Wow. Lovely. And before we wrap up, Jeremy, as someone who's been both a CEO and a therapist, you have experienced different kinds of leadership. So, how does leading an organization compare to guiding people one-on-one through personal breakthroughs?
I would say that there's a difficulty when you're an organization or company leader, in that there tends to be the need to make difficult decisions that are going to have difficult ramifications in the lives of other people, despite whether you empathize with them or care for them. And it's a very difficult position to be in. It's a very heavy crown to wear, if you will. And the ability for me now to just simply work on elevating the lives of people, helping them transcend themselves, it is far less stressful than being a company CEO, because there's so much demanded of you, and there's so much criticism, and there's so much responsibility in the CEO realm. I get to form lasting, loving, caring, supportive, individual, intensive relationships with people where I can simply be the person who is always supportive and kind and the warm space for people to talk about things that are challenging to them. And so it's much more of a space that is, kind of comfortable.
That's really a blessing, Jeremy. Really a blessing. Great. And if our listeners they want to get in touch with you, Jeremy, and explore your resources, your wisdom, share their life journeys, and they wish to seek some wisdom, how they can do that.
Yeah, thank you so much. My website is mindfulmutiny.com, and people can go there and see more about what I'm about. They can schedule a free consultation where I can just get on and talk about life and talk about things. And I also am the host of the Mindful Mutiny podcast, where I interview incredible people who are living the highest version of themselves. And so I can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and mindfulmutiny.com.
Lovely. We'll have all the links and details mentioned in the show notes. And Jeremy, thank you so much for an eye-opening and inspiring conversation with so much clarity in every answer and every detail you shared, and your insights are really, really powerful reminder that life is both an adventure and also a journey of self-discovery. And also, thank you so much for sharing important, crucial insights on ADHD, especially for entrepreneurs. So thank you. Thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you, Sana. And I'm going to tell you something that I really love that you do. Your unique and wonderful interest in people. It really shows through in the episodes that I've listened to of your podcast. Your genuine interest in the people that you're interviewing, your thoughtful questioning, your real effort to understand the people that you're talking to. You really are an excellent host.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy, for the feedback. That was really, really lovely. And I don't have I don't have anything to say, but to our listeners also, thank you so much for being with us in our journey of discovering mindfulness. And remember that you don't need to be afraid to break the mold and embrace your quirks. So, if you wish to connect with Jeremy and explore his resources, his podcast, and also maybe connect with him, you can refer the show notes along with this episode. And until next time, stay mindful and keep growing on your unique path. This is your host, Sana, signing off.